It's so cool to be back here in Hamilton and to see some familiar faces, but also really cool to see some new faces, because that tells me that this church has been on a journey and it hasn't been staying still, and that's really exciting. But also it means that you guys must have gone through a heap of stuff. Like, we missed COVID, I think, me and Glyn, and you guys, I think we took off right before it all really kicked in here. And then we arrived in Hungary right after that hit it. So we kind of missed the whole thing, really. I think we did a month of lockdown when they did the first month. And then we don't talk about, oh, sorry, guys, sorry. I can see that there's some bad memories there. So sorry about that. Yes. And then you went somewhere, like, was it the Christian school for a bit? We don't speak about those times either, apparently. Answers like giving me the hush hush. And now you're in this fantastic place. That's so cool. I can speak about that. This place is amazing. Whenever I tell people where you guys have shifted to, they're like, oh, that's a cool spot. So you guys have a reputation already that you need to live up to. You have to keep it cool. And with Ants, I'm afraid that you're off to a bad start. You're going to have to help him out there. It's nice to know some things are consistent, and the dad jokes have remained. And the groans from the audience as he tells yet another joke that you've heard a million times before. Yeah. So let me help you out by speaking today and trying not to have any dad jokes. So tonight we're going to share a bit more about what exactly we did over there, because that's the exciting stuff, right? Like, you want to hear the stories, you want to hear what we did. But this morning I just wanted to share more of kind of the main lesson or the main thing that we learnt by doing what we did. Because I think I want to get you all back later. But also, I think that's so important to understand what it is that these things did to us before we share what it is we did, and to get some of that truth out that might be a bit more relevant where you're at, because these stories are going to sound, some of them are going to sound real far-fetched and a little bit way over there. But I really want to give you guys something that applies to you where you are now in New Zealand, which is a cool place to be, by the way. So this morning, I'm just really here to challenge one main idea. And that idea is that God's direction means things are going to be smooth. And things being smooth means that we have God's direction. That's a big lie. So any of you that have been challenged over the last few years with something hard, or you have signed up to something new and it hasn't been what you thought it would be, or you're here at this church and these people are not what you thought they'd be like, this is for you. God's direction does not mean things are going to be smooth. And so I'm here to challenge that lie this morning. A little while ago, I ran a marathon. Yes, I know you can tell, looking very svelte. And by marathon, I mean 5 kilometers. It was very long. It felt like a marathon. I made it look like a marathon. And it was really tough. But I just wanted to share something around that there were 4 phases I went through to run this giant marathon. The first phase was the idea phase. Now, this is my favorite phase because you imagine what things will be like, and you think about it and you think what you would be like to do that thing, and it's all very lovely. And some of us here are visionary. You want to raise your hand if you're the person who thinks long term. You're the guy with the idea, and you'll go running towards the idea, and it's all real great. Then there's the preparation phase. This part is a little harder. This is where the idea of who you thought you were going to be and the actuality of who you are kind of meet together, and it's sometimes not very fun. And, you have to get up early in the morning to go for your runs, but you don't want to. Or you have to eat a certain way and you don't want to do that. Or there's just a lot of things of where the person you thought you were going to be when you complete this idea and the person you actually are not meeting up. Then there's the doing, the actual running of the marathon, the actual doing of the thing that you committed to doing. And that's when the fruit of all your preparation really comes to play. And for me, it was pretty bad. It was pretty horrendous. I really did. I made it over the finish line, but it was pretty rough going there for a while. I thought I would Yeah, I don't know what I thought was going to happen. But anyway, I finished it. I got the medal. I don't think I deserved that medal, but there we are. And then the fourth phase is the completion of it. And that's real fun. You actually did it. You get the medal. You celebrate. You have the endorphins. And then you never commit to something so stupid ever again, right? That's where I am currently. I will not be signing up to another marathon. So those are the 4 phases usually that we go through when there's like an idea and just getting through to the end of that. I think we all have these phases whenever we start or we commit to something new. So all of you in this room, hopefully in the last 4 years while we've been gone, have had something like this, an idea of something that you wanted to achieve or that God called you to achieve. You've had maybe some preparation, then you've attempted to do the thing. Maybe you're still in the middle of doing the thing. And then at some faraway, distant future, you might complete the thing. Or for some of us, we might pass on, and that's the completion of the thing. So all of us in this room probably has some experience with these 4 phases, and we're in the middle of it at this moment. I'm going to read a really heartwarming passage of scripture. So we're going to turn to Luke chapter 14, verse 25 to 35, and it's going to be up here as well. Large crowds were traveling with Jesus, and turning to them, he said, "If anyone comes to me and does not hate father and mother, wife and children, brothers and sisters, yes, even their own life, such a person cannot be my disciple. And whoever does not carry their cross and follow me cannot be my disciple. Suppose one of you wants to build a tower. Won't you first sit down and estimate the cost to see if you have enough money to complete it? For if you lay the foundation and are not able to finish it, everyone who sees it will ridicule you, saying, 'This person began to build and wasn't able to finish.' Or suppose a king is about to go to war against another king. Won't he first sit down and consider whether he is able with 10,000 men to oppose the one coming against him with 20,000? If he is not able, he will send a delegation while the other is still a long way off and will ask for terms of peace. In the same way, those of you who do not give up everything you have cannot be my disciples. Salt is good, but if it loses its saltiness, how can it be made salty again? It is fit neither for the soil nor for the manure pile. It is thrown out." Now I realize how much of a cliche it is to have a missionary standing here sharing this verse with you. I understand that. It's a hard verse, and it looks like we've done the thing that I'm now reading out to you, but we're all in the same boat together. And we're in the process of doing this the same way you're in the process of doing this. And so I just want to encourage you that this is a process we are all going through together as the body of Christ. Part of our usefulness as Christians in a world that is not Christian, our saltiness, it's connected to our ability to count the cost of what it is we are committing to. And sometimes I think Christianity is offered to us as a way out of the difficulty. Christianity and the relationship that we are supposed to foster with Jesus is offered to us as something that will bring us an easier path. But it doesn't say that in the Bible. In fact, if we look at our examples in the Bible, when someone is called to follow Jesus or asked to do something great, usually what follows is horrible things. Horrible things follow. There's challenges. There's challenges from outside and there's challenges from within. And so I just want to encourage you all that if you're in a season where things are really hard, where there are challenges, where coming to church could be a challenge, where being part of your work environment could be a challenge, where you are having health difficulties or some mental challenges, this is part of the journey that God has called you to. It is not something asking you, it is not God asking you to move yourself. It is not God closing a door. Sometimes the hard things are proof that you are where you need to be. Let's think about Peter, the disciple Peter. Who really likes Peter? Peter's my favorite disciple. Out of all the 12 disciples, he makes what I think are the most recorded messes. So every other disciple, maybe one or two gets noted. Judas was pretty bad. But apart from that, everyone else, they make one or two mistakes or they're not really mentioned. And John is obviously the most loved, but he says that about himself. So we'll take that with a grain of salt. But Peter makes so many mistakes and he's just so passionate. I really like a passionate disciple, right? So he's offering pretty silly things at times, and he's following Jesus off the boat onto the water, but then he's sinking. And then he's denying Jesus in front of people after just saying he would never do that. Very human things that we all find ourselves actually doing in real life. Genuine mistakes. He turns out to be the leader of the actual church eventually. Made a lot of mistakes. Didn't have this clear trajectory from calling to being the leader of the church. Made a lot of mistakes. Guess how that ended? He ended up crucified. This is his great calling to follow Jesus. It didn't end in a way that we think would be victorious or very affirming of the call. If you hear that me and Glyn have traveled back and one of us has passed away, people start to think, oh, maybe they'd gone out from under the protection of God. People start to think, was there some sin? But actually, the hardships and the bad things that happen to people can be a sign that you are in the right place facing the right enemy. And the enemy has teeth. He does. He has teeth. He does things that are actually going to hurt, that are actually going to damage. But that should not be a sign that you need to move on or you need to leave. You must stand firm. So here's the idea I would like you all to walk away with today. And if you did, I would feel like I have in some way succeeded this morning. And here's the idea. God's direction is sometimes clear, always confirmed, never smooth. Let me say that again. God's direction is sometimes clear, always confirmed, never smooth. Now, our journey into missions was one of the hardest things me and my husband have ever done. And we thought we had a really tough season, actually. It was pretty rough out there. But when I come back and when I start to talk to some of you, I've met with some of you this week, which is really cool. Others of you I would love to meet. But when I come back and I talk to some of the people that we left back here, and I'm coming in thinking, oh my gosh, we went through this really tough stuff and it was really hard and I'm really so broken down. And I talk to some of you all, you've been going through some really, really hard things yourselves. There's some people who have found out they have brain tumors or cancer, or they're divorcing their partners that they thought they were going to live with for the rest of their lives. There's some really hard things people have experienced while we've been away. I'm going to share 3 challenges that I think make us the same, us all here in this room. So it doesn't matter whether you're a missionary heading off overseas or you're following God where you're at right here. There are 3 challenges that I think we all face that I want to talk about in an open forum here this morning, so that it's not a big secret, okay? It's not going to be a big secret anymore. These are 3 massive challenges that you're going to face that may not necessarily be telling you you're in the wrong place. They could actually be confirming that you are in the right place. Challenge number 1. The challenge of the preparation taking longer than you'd like. Oh, this one's a doozy. So when me and Glyn signed up to be missionaries, I was expecting the preparation process to take a total of 3 months, because I thought we were pretty holy and I thought we were pretty ready to go. And then 3 years later, we were buying flights to leave finally. It was a 3-year preparation process. And the person that we became, or the people that we became in that 3 years, I would not go back and do it before that ever again, right? So in hindsight, I can see the value in that preparation time taking a really long time. And in submitting to people who told us to take our time, which was very challenging for me. Sometimes you are going to be in a season of preparation for much longer than you would like. And actually, you start to question if you're on the right track, if you're doing the right thing. Because if preparation is going to take this long, maybe I shouldn't be on this track. But let me encourage you here this morning that sometimes God is changing you to be a person capable of holding the next season. If he had put me and Glyn into Europe 3 months after right when I wanted to, I don't think we would have been capable of holding the things we had to hold. There are some cross-cultural issues that came up where as Kiwis, we view the world a certain way, and some of us are not Kiwis, so I shouldn't be like, here we all are. We all view the world in a way that our culture and the place we grew up in informs us on. And when you go out and meet people of other cultures, there are some things that are just not going to fit. And that's okay. We needed to understand a little bit of that. And so God used the preparation season to shape us into people capable of holding the next season. Is he doing that with you? Could he be doing that with you? I think that's why I find it so hard when I see people, and I know this is tricky, but when I see people leaving tough situations because it's tough, and I'm not speaking about special situations of like abuse or trauma. Don't stay there because Naomi Johnston said we should stay in difficult situations. Okay, don't use my name like that. That's not what I'm saying. But if you're in an uncomfortable situation, let's call it uncomfortable. There's something in you not sitting right with something in them, and there's a bit of discomfort there, or physically there's some discomfort, or, the new thing at the moment, and I'm not dissing it, but like we think New Zealand isn't all that, and we go running off somewhere for some great life. Just sit in the discomfort a little bit is all I'm saying. Sit in the discomfort a little bit. Let it shape you. Maybe God's doing something in that. Challenge number 2. The idea and the actuality of what you end up doing are almost always different. Let me say that again. The idea and the actuality of what you end up doing are almost always different. God still brought you there. One of the most challenging things for me is that I had an idea of what I thought our missions trip to Europe was going to be like. And I felt like that idea was given to me by God. God planted an idea in me of what I needed to go do. And that's what made me go and do it, right? Some of us have an idea of what we thought our lives were going to be like, and they were God ideas. They were visions that God placed in our lives. And then it gets to the point where we're doing that thing and it looks very different, and it's hard to talk to God about that. Like, you told me to go to Europe. You told me I'd be part of this team. You told me I'd have, you laid this idea of this impact I was going to have, and you let me run with that. And now I'm here, and it's not what I thought it was going to be. This is not looking, adult life is not looking like how I wanted it to look. I'm divorced. Who wants to divorce? No one. We don't go into marriage wanting to divorce. My kid has died. Who has children thinking that there's a possibility they might pass away before you? We go into these things with this God-gifted idea of what it's going to be, and it's not what it looks like. God still brought you there. God still planted the idea. He knew what it was going to take to get you to move. He knew what it was going to take to get you to move. God knew that if he had planted in me and Glyn this idea of going to Spain, we would not have done it. We would not have left New Zealand for Spain. We were not looking for a Spanish experience. We were wanting to serve Eastern European people like orphans and things. We had this idea of what it was we were going to do. But through that, God is moving us on to the next thing that we would never have said yes to. And maybe he's doing that with you. Maybe he's doing that with you. In the Bible, there's a story of Abraham where God promises him enough descendants to fill the stars, in the sky and the sand on the earth. Now, if God came to you in a dream and said that you were going to have this many kids and this many kids, how many children do you think that God would be promising you? Like a ton. Heaps of children. Start strong, finish strong. 7, 8, 9, 10, 14 children. And then they will have 14 children. And then there will be descendants and all this stuff, right? God gave him 2. God gave him 2 kids. One of them was a bit dodgy, how he got that kid. So, actually maybe there should have just been 1 perhaps, but there's 2. God loves them both. There was 2. God fulfilled his promise, but it didn't, I bet you, it didn't look the way Abraham thought it was going to look. And not with a 90-year-old wife. Like there's some challenges there. So I'm guessing it's not what Abraham thought it was going to be. And let's look at Jesus actually. Jesus came down to earth, and the people that started following him, who here is watching The Chosen? Anyone here watch The Chosen? It's pretty cool. It's pretty legit. I really like it. Therefore, it's legit. But there's something really beautiful they do where they make people a bit more human. Like when you think about the disciples, you think of these holy men. They were pretty human. So all these people that follow Jesus, in the back of their minds, they're remembering all these prophecies of a king. And the king always looks victorious and coming in with a sword and killing the Romans or killing whoever was in charge at the time, depending on which generation you were in. And Jesus comes in and he rides into Jerusalem on his triumphant entry on a donkey. Now, donkeys look pretty much the same now as they did back then. They're pretty short. They don't look magnificent. They're cool, but they don't look magnificent. If Jesus was doing what people thought he should be doing, he would be riding in on a big horse. In fact, there's scripture verses now about him doing that. But at the time, he's coming in as a king on a donkey, looking very different from what they thought he should. And in fact, I think that's one of the reasons why a few days later, when he's being hung out to dry, no one is there for him. Because their idea of who they thought Jesus should be and who he actually was so different, and they didn't recognize it. And they thought this guy that we thought was so cool and was healing all these people and saving all these people is not the person we thought he was going to be. And they missed it. I think we do the same thing, and I think me and Glyn did do the same thing. We went over to Europe with this idea, Glyn was going over to do 2 very set projects that immediately we knew were not going to happen. Things changed, but we were already there. But 6 months later, the war in Ukraine kicked off, and Ukraine is right next to Hungary. They share a land border. So 6 months in, Glyn's not building, Glyn's not working with his hands, he's not crafting or renovating this big, massive project that we can tell people about. He's driving across the border with food supplies. And I'm going to tell, it sounds real cool, right? Like for some people, the idea of going in and dropping off humanitarian supplies sounds real cool. In actuality, you're sitting in a car for 6 hours trying to get through border control. There's a lot of nothing. There's a lot of time that you have to sit and just wait. And then you drop the food off and then you do it all again, another 6 hours sitting at border control. So the thing we thought we were going to do, even though it turns into something different that was completely cool, still didn't look the way we think things should look. And yet I'd go back and do it the same way in a heartbeat, right? Challenge number 3. This one's the hardest for me. So I could talk about this for a long time. No, just kidding. It's the challenge of the work happening within us concurrently to the work we are doing around us. Everyone take a deep breath. God isn't just calling us all to go out into this world and change it. He's drawing us into situations that are going to change what's in here, right? So there's something really passive about going out into the world and trying to change or influence what is out there. there's something deeply painful about things changing in here when we thought we were doing the right thing. Sometimes we take that as a sign that we're not in the right place again, because it's like it's hurting in here and it's hard in here. But again, God is using these situations to shape who we are at the same time. In fact, there's a scripture verse. 2 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 7. Therefore, in order to keep me from becoming conceited, this is Paul talking, he's another cool guy. To keep me from becoming conceited, I was given a thorn in my flesh, a messenger of Satan to torment me. 3 times I pleaded with the Lord to take it away from me, but he said to me, my grace is sufficient for you. Read this. My power is made perfect in weakness. Not in spite of weakness. God doesn't put your weakness over here and says, I can still work with what's left. Your weakness is the very thing that God is going to use to bring power into a situation, not in spite of it. So let's sit here for a second and think about the very worst things about ourselves that we struggle with. Think about that for a second. It's a bit uncomfortable. Some of you may grimace. I get it. Think about the thing that you've struggled with your whole life and you have not beaten it yet. Think about that thing. I've got one. I've got a few. God is not going to use you in spite of that. He's going to use that very thing and the way that you handle that to bring his power into the world. It's hard to explain how that looks because it can sometimes be very shameful, how your weakness plays out in front of people. It's been very shameful for me. I've gone into this missional situation and really screwed up a couple of times. It's really shameful because missionaries are not supposed to sin. Missionaries are not supposed to screw up. We're supposed to lead the church into the outer reaches of the world. We really do screw up things. We really do. We really mess things up. And it's not in spite of that God worked. God works in it. Are you holding that thing up with vulnerability to God? Are you being honest about it? Are you confessing it when you need to? Are you leading other people around you knowing that you're sinful, that you're weak, and therefore they're okay to be a little bit that way? God is using your weakness to bring his strength. He's not working in spite of it. I'm hoping to be able to share with you this learning and this way that God has been working in our lives, because when we tell you the stories of what we've done tonight, I want you to know that these are things that ordinary people have done. Ordinary people have gone and done that. Less than ordinary. There are better people God could have picked with weaknesses that weren't so dominant, with sins that weren't so deeply embedded, like a good Christian person who never sinned. God could have used that person, but he picked us. And here we are off doing it, right? I wanted you to know that about us before we share these cool stories that make you go, wow, look what God's doing over there. I want you to know that God is also doing it here. It just looks a bit more normal to you, right? It just looks a bit more ordinary. It's you showing up to church. It's you being part of a committed body of believers alongside, shoulder to shoulder, with people that you may not like sometimes. That's a miracle. Some of you have been here so long, had so many people hurt you and do things, and here you are still. That's a miracle. Some people are here despite abuse and despite trauma. And you're here meeting God, knowing that he let that stuff happen to you. That's a miracle. Right? So when you come back at 5 p.m. and you hear some of these stories, I want you to know these were very ordinary people who just said, yes, you are too. You are too. You are too. You are too. You are all very ordinary people who have said yes. Can we keep doing that together? Can we keep saying yes? So here's that lie again, that God's direction means things are going to be smooth, and things being smooth means that we have God's direction. Untrue. Throw that out. Take that out of your head, throw it away. The challenges. Number 1, preparation is usually longer than what you'd like. Number 2, the idea and the actuality of what you're going to do are almost always different. That's okay. Number 3, the work is usually happening within us concurrently to the work we are doing around us. So let's finish with that truth again. God's direction is sometimes clear, always confirmed, never smooth. Can we say that all together as a group on the count of 3? 1, 2, 3. God's direction is sometimes clear, always confirmed, never smooth. Cool. Can I pray?